Hey guys, what's going on? Jebb here, and in today's video, we're going to be talking about how Bitcoin could possibly fall as low as $1,000 or below. Now, this is not clickbait. This is actually the opinion of many technical analysts. Not necessarily many, but definitely some prominent technical analysts in the cryptocurrency market. So in today's video, because I'm normally very bullish on Bitcoin, because I actually am very bullish on Bitcoin, I'm going to be explaining their opinion, and I'm going to be laying out the case for why Bitcoin could fall as low as $3,000, $1,000, or even potentially lower. But before we get into that, guys, if you enjoyed today's video, definitely consider dropping a like and hitting that subscribe button because we do cryptocurrency videos every single day. And I also forgot to mention that tomorrow we're going to be doing the flip side, and I'm going to be explaining the bullish case for Bitcoin and why Bitcoin could go as high as $1 million by 2020. So definitely subscribe for that. Now, Bitcoin is currently trading around $6,000. Up from its recent lows of around $6,100, but the bearish case says that Bitcoin is going to break its key support level at $6,000 and plummet down to $5,000, break support there, and then continue to fall to $3,000 or even farther below. And one of the things that they point to is that the volume for Bitcoin is very, very low. As we can see, Bitcoin's volume is under $3.5 billion. That is extremely low. The volume for the entire cryptocurrency market is only around $11 billion. Back during Bitcoin's highs and back during the cryptocurrencies, the peak of its rally, if you will, Bitcoin's daily volume, or the total market's daily volume, was hovering around $40 to $70 billion a day. As we can see here on January the 5th, after Bitcoin had peaked out, this is when Ethereum was peaking out, the daily trading volume was around $66.5 billion. As you can see here, it was hovering in between 30, 40, 50, and even up into the $60 and $70 billion ranges. Now it's only around about $11 billion. That's very low, and the reason that that's a problem is because that means that there's very low liquidity in the market. That leaves the market open, or more open anyway, to market manipulators, and that is not exactly a very good thing. You want to have high liquidity. You want to have high liquidity, especially in cryptocurrency markets. So that's something that they point to. Another thing is that, well, let's get onto the chart and explain another reason why, or more reasons rather, why the bears believe that Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies are going to continue to fall in 2018. Now, the first thing that we have to talk about, of course, is Bitcoin's trend. Let's just review what Bitcoin did. Bitcoin ran up to $20,000 and it fell to $6,000 very, very quickly. It blew its top off, fell down to $6,000, and from there we wound up in this descending triangle pattern. Now, there are two ways that you can classify this descending triangle pattern, so I'll explain them both and what they both mean. The way that I classify this descending triangle pattern, or rather how you can define this pattern, there are two different ways to define this pattern. The first of which is as a descending triangle pattern. Now, a descending triangle pattern has a downtrend slope of resistance and a flat bottom. Now, this flat bottom would be the support level, or the support area in between $6,000 and $6,500. You could draw a box in between there and call that the support area right around here. And then you could call this a descending triangle pattern. Now, what this means, this is a bearish pattern in and of itself, because this means that the bulls are not able to set higher lows, which is something we'll talk about in a second. This means that the bulls are not able to set higher lows and actually get the market off its feet. For a little while for a long time we were actually. We did have this uptrend that we broke recently, and we were in an actual symmetrical triangle pattern where the bulls were setting higher lows and the bears were setting lower highs, which would be a more neutral pattern. But since we broke below $7,300 a couple days ago, we are now at least in a descending triangle pattern, which means that the bears are in control because they keep setting lower lows. And of course, that's very apparent also because we've been in a bear market for the last about 5 to 6 weeks, ever since the beginning of May. Now, since this is a descending triangle pattern, and since the bulls are not able to set higher lows and the bears are able to set lower highs, that means that normally the price action in a pattern like this will drive Bitcoin below its support level, or drive the market rather below its support level and crash it through that market. This is also a continuation pattern. Normally this kind of pattern is a continuation pattern, and it would be a continuation pattern from the bear market that had already started. So this is actually a very bearish pattern, and the bulls also do recognize that, but the bullish stance is that we're probably going to break out of it anyway, but that's for tomorrow's video. So that's the first thing. Another thing that some people are pointing to is that this is actually not a descending triangle pattern, it's actually a falling wedge pattern, which is even more bearish. Now, with this falling wedge pattern, we still have the same downtrend of resistance, but instead of having a flat bottom of support, we also have a falling downtrend of support. This is a very bearish pattern because it means the bears are able to set lower highs and lower lows, so that's even more bearish. And the case for the bears is that we're going to break bearish out of whichever one of these patterns we are actually looking at. We're going to break bullish out of whichever pattern it is, and we're actually going to see Bitcoin fall to at least $5,000. And then another thing they would say is that Bitcoin, when it falls to $5,000, because it could fall to $5,000. If we break $6,000, I do personally believe that we'll probably be knocking on $5,000 to $5,500 doorstep within 24 hours of doing so. We've seen Bitcoin fall $1,000 in a day very, very recently. That's very possible. What they would say is that Bitcoin, when it falls to $5,000, that's a 75% retracement from the all-time high, and that's not as far as we retraced in 2014 and 15. So we could fall through there in the chaos, in the FUD, in the fear on the streets, the panic on the streets. We could accidentally fall through $5,000, and the next major support level would be $3,000. Now let's go back and tidy up a little bit and touch on something I mentioned earlier, which is that we finally set a lower low. Now another thing that the bears would point to, which is what I'm just talking about, is that Bitcoin has just set another lower low. And let me explain what that means. For the entirety of this bull market, even up until just a couple of days ago, Bitcoin has continually set higher lows. If we come back here, then we see a higher low down here at $500, $750, $900, $1,800, $3,000, $5,800, $6,000, $6,500, and that was a very nice trend, but unfortunately, we set a lower low for the first time in over 2 years. Down here at $6,100, falling below this low. That is not a good sign. I'll be straight up with you guys. That is not a good sign, and that's definitely something the bears are pointing to, is that that's a break of a trend that we've been able to stay above for a very long time. So that's something to keep in mind. But if we do break below $6,000, it's not impossible that we break below $5,000, and the next place that we'd be falling to is $3,000. Like I said, that would be $5,000 would be a 75% retracement from all-time high. 3,000 would be around an 80 to an 85% retracement from all-time high, which I think is where a lot of the bears are pointing to Bitcoin going. I'll get into where some people think that it's going to go even lower than that in just a minute. But one of the reasons that $3,000 is a decent level to look at is because it would be a little over an 80% retracement. And if we come back over here to the chart and we look at the actual big bear market back here in 2014 and 15, then what we saw is that Bitcoin ran all the way to $1,200, and then it crashed all the way down to around $180 to around $200. If you actually do the math on this, Bitcoin crashed around 80 to 85% based on where you call the top and the bottom. So if we were to crash from $20,000 down to $3,000, that would be close to around an 80 to 85% retracement, around a 75 to 80, about an 80% retracement. And then that would actually line up with what we saw in this bear market over here in 2014 and 15. So that would actually reestablish the trend that Bitcoin retraces 80% in its actual major bear markets. So that's the reason that a lot of people are pointing at $3,000. Now, some people do believe that it's going to go even lower than that. Now, you guys may be familiar with Tone Vays. He's a very prominent technical analyst. He has somewhere around 60,000 subscribers, 70,000 subscribers on YouTube, certainly far larger than I am. So I want to go ahead and quote him as saying that Bitcoin will fall to $1,300. Let's go ahead and roll the clip.
I do not see Bitcoin going lower than $1,300, and I think that is actually the ideal point for it to fall to before it goes all the way back up to 20,000 and more.
Okay, so that's basically what they're saying. A lot of people don't necessarily believe Bitcoin's going to go that low. I certainly don't, although I could see Bitcoin going down to $5,000 or $3,000, getting less likely that we would go to those levels the lower that we go. But another important thing to point out is that I'm by no means bashing the bears, and by no means should you guys bash the bears, and by no means do I want a flame war in the comment section in between the bulls and the bears saying that, oh, well, Bitcoin's going to go to 20,000 in like tomorrow, and someone else saying that, oh, well, Bitcoin's going to go to negative $420 in like yesterday. So I don't want a flame war in the comments. The bears most of the bears anyway, want what's good for Bitcoin. They're just calling it like they see it, which I believe is what Tone Vays is saying, which is why he also believes that Bitcoin will be going to $20,000 after we retrace that far. That's just something I wanted to throw out there. But guys, that's what we wanted to talk about in this video. Another important thing to point out, and basically I'm just laying out facts and information so that you guys can make up your mind after you've watched this video, and especially tomorrow's video where I lay out the bullish case. I'm basically just laying out facts and information so that you guys can come to your own conclusion. Another thing that we want to point out is that this bear market has been very short in comparison to the one that we saw in 2014 and 15. Now, there's a counter argument to this in the bullish case that I'll be making tomorrow, but that is an important thing to point out. This bear market took about 1.5 years to close to 2 years to actually finally bottom out at around $175 from $1,200 all-time high. And we've only been in a bear market for about 7 months. That's another important thing to keep in mind. But that's going to do it for this video, guys. If you enjoyed today's video, definitely consider dropping a like and subscribing if you enjoyed that video. And also, I'm interested to hear where you think Bitcoin is going. Are you on Team Bull? Are you on Team Bear? Tell me in this poll up here in the top right and in the comments section down below. If you guys aren't already following me on Instagram and Twitter, I highly recommend doing so. Links to do so in the description down below. Also, if you guys are looking for a new cryptocurrency exchange, I highly recommend Binance. Binance has an amazing user interface with tons of cryptocurrencies, and they also have a thing where if you use Binance token to pay your trading fees, you actually get to pay trading fees half off, which is pretty cool. So they do have also very low trading fees, and they are used quite prominently. I do believe they're the largest, if not one of the largest cryptocurrency exchanges in the industry. But that's going to do it for this video. Like I said, guys, I want to thank each and every single one of you for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.